Hi geometry students. So today we're going to finish up the Outbreak Lab and we're doing step 3 to start. We'll also do check your learning, so parts of check your learning anyway. So the first thing in step 3, it talks about writing an equation for the area of a sector. So remember, before we did the arc length, which was roping off the sections and finding like how to split them into groups of 3. Today, we're going to try to work with the area of each of those sections, each of those 3 sections, to figure out like how much medicine we need to administer. So we start off by thinking about the area of a circle. So remember, the area of a circle is pi r squared. Now I know they both look the same, but what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what's the area of a sector in degrees, and what's the area of a sector in radians, using our conversion factor that we had earlier. Remember I told you that 2 pi, it takes 2 pi or 6.28 radians to go all the way around the circle, and 360 degrees is also all the way around the circle, so we're going to use that information. So for the degrees, remember we're finding the area of a sector. We don't want the whole circle, we just want a fraction of it, right? So imagine finding the area of just a fraction of the circle. Okay? Let's say this is sector 1. So if I'm trying to find the area of a fraction of a circle in degrees, I'd have to think, okay, what's the measure of my angle over 360? Okay? So there's the area formula for a sector. The degrees out of 360, that's a fraction of the circle, times pi r squared. So you're finding a fraction of the area. Now if I want to do it in radians, I just have to do a little bit more math. So instead of x over 360, I'll use 2 pi if I want to work with radians. So x over 2 pi, and then from there, I can simplify this a little bit, and then we'll reuse this later. So notice there's a pi on top and the pi on the bottom. They cancel. So you're really left with x over 2 times r squared. So that's your area in radians if you're putting in a radian as a measure here. And again, this is degrees if you're putting in degrees. So now it says for the second part, the infected population of Detroit has been divided into 3 areas with an angle measure of 120, or remember ours was 2 pi over 3 in radians. What's the area of one sector? So I'm going to show you both of these because it'll actually answer both of these questions. If we use degrees instead of radians, we can use our conversion factor. We talked about that to rewrite the formula for degree measure. We already did that. So what I want to do is calculate for number 2 and 3, calculate the area in degrees and in radians. And you can have both of those on here. And I think they probably should have said 2 pi over 3 for this. But anyway, so for degrees, let's say we're using the degrees. So area equals 120 over 360. And then that's times pi r squared. So we end up with, remember 120 goes into 360 3 times. So that's 1/3. Okay, so that's a third of the total area of that circle. And remember we used 1 1/4 miles for our radius for that particular, I think for day 3. So whatever that ends up being, that would be our area for that sector. Okay, I'm going to show you if we do use this, that it will be the same exact answer at the end. So for radians, remember 120 degrees was 2 pi over 3. So area equals, and then we can put 2 pi over 3 over 2 times 1.25 squared. So I've got to simplify this. So remember, if you're simplifying a fraction divided by a number, you can also make this 2 pi over 3 divided by 2 over 1. You can always put a whole number over 1. And then this is a fraction divided by a fraction. And just remember, if you keep the top the same, change the division to multiplication. So keep, change, and then flip the bottom one. So it was 2 over 1, now it's going to be 1 over 2. So now that'll help me simplify this. So if you notice, there's a 2 on the top and the 2 on the bottom. So we're going to cancel those out. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so they cancel. And then notice we're left with 1 times pi, or pi, over 3. 3 is the only one on the bottom here. So that means this right here simplifies to pi over 3. So the area equals pi over 3 times 1.25 squared. And look, those are the same thing, because 1/3 times pi is the same as pi over 3. Those are the same. So these are equal to each other. So again, whatever that answer is, go ahead and do that in your calculator. And let me see if I can do that on mine here, actually. So if I put it in on mine, I'm going to do pi divided by 3, and then I'm going to do times 1.25 squared. And it'll square that first before it does anything else. So, oh, and I put, okay, so let's try that again. Pi divided by 3. It didn't take my point. I don't know if I typed it in. Maybe I didn't. 1.64. So 1.64 square miles. Okay. And so yeah, that's the area of that sector. And just make sure I'm right on that. Double check me here. Okay. So the final thing, it says use this new formula to find the area. We did that. What did you notice about the areas you calculated? They're the same. So does it matter whether you calculate the area using degrees versus radians? Nope, it doesn't. So whichever one you have it in, I guess, that's the area formula you should probably use. But just know that, again, the main idea for this is that to find the area of a sector, it's a fraction of the area of a circle. Okay? So now the final thing that you guys are going to be doing is the check your learning part. I'm not going to go over too much on this because you're going to have to look this up, but it says now that you know the area of each of the sectors you've made, you can calculate the approximate amount of people in each of the sectors using the population density. So it tells you to go to, in Hero, go to the check your learning in Hero. There's a link there that you can click on, and it gives you an article. And if you scroll down to page A21, you'll see a map, and it'll show you some percentages. You're going to want to find the population density of the different sections of Detroit. Okay? And I think what you want to do is give an approximation to, I believe what they're saying is, if they're saying the density of different sections, maybe like split them off, sector 1, sector 2, sector 3. Try to just estimate what you think the population density is in that each sector, basically. So it says use this color coding to estimate the population density of Detroit in people per acre and provide reasoning for your choice. And then once you've decided on that, use the area of each sector that you calculated and the fact that there are 640 acres in a square mile to calculate about how many people are in each sector. Okay, so there will be different amounts of people in each sector. All right. And then how many dosages will each sector need to cure the population? So it says in Sector 1, give each person 1 dose of medicine per day. You find out that it takes them 3 weeks to recover. How many dosages will it take them to cure them? In Sector 2, you give each person 2 dosages, and you find out that it takes half of the time from before, 1.5 weeks to recover. How many dosages will it take to cure the people? And then Sector 3 is 3 dosages a day, and you can read that. The final thing is how many dosages will you need in total to cure the people? So again, just look over that article, and we'll probably work on some of this together.